Everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all. Myself, Vaibhav. I welcome all of you to today's session of Visual JForex, in which we will be continuing our algorithmic development using the indicator Woodie pivot. This is the second part of this series, and in today's session, the focus will be on completing the buy side of the equation. So let us now get started. We will be actually resuming our work from where we left last time around. In last session, the setup so far was completed, which includes this instrument subscription. After that, the position amount was defined at 0, and this Woody pivot block of the daily candle period has been added to define the conditions revolving around which we will be looking to execute the trades in a profitable manner. To further fine tune the strategy, we are also taking the help of these price action data using the get historical candle. First one is of 4 hourly time frame. These two are of hourly each, and last two are of 10 seconds each. Now, for a brief refresher, I will take you to the Visual JForex platform. Here, the idea is fairly simple, and if you remember from the last session, we are looking to go for the buy trade when we see the momentum on the bullish side, and for that the first requirement was that the 4 hourly candle, the last 4 hourly candle which has already closed, it should have closed with gains. Its closing value needs to be higher compared to the opening value, and only in that scenario we will be looking to initiate the buy trade, provided we see that the penultimate hourly candle, not the last one, the hourly candle prior to the last one, should have closed above the central point of these Woody pivot series, and its opening value also needs to be higher. So we need to make sure that price is able to sustain itself above the pivot series block, and in that scenario we will look to initiate the trade if we see that in the next hour we will need the price to again dip below the central point of the pivot series, and it should close on the lower side, and then we will be placing a stop order, buy stop order on the higher side at the central pivot series level. And that formation doesn't really materialize in today's session. Here we see the closing and opening value of this hour being higher compared to the central point of this Woody pivot series, but this next hourly candle doesn't really close below this central point, so our setup will not hold good here. And I had explained to you in detail last time around what are the requirements. So this kind of requirement will be needed to be in place. Now it's time for executing it on the Visual JForex board, which has been developed by the Dukascopy Bank SA. So we now get back to the business and we start adding the required blocks. And now we are going to need the if else statements, if else blocks to define the requirements for the execution of the trade. So we add the logical blocks here, logical components we are going to need. Okay. I'm not really sure how many of these will be required, so we add as we need. First thing first, we need the last hourly candle close to be below the central point, which is central point P10. So I take it as the second input, and the penultimate hourly candle should have closed above the central point P10. So again, here we have taken it as the second input of both these if blocks, and we compare this data with the closing values of the candle 15 and candle 16. Candle 15 is the last hourly candle close, so I am going to take candle 15 candle close, auto created variables. Okay, first input greater than second input. Oh, sorry. Here, actually, we need it to have closed lower, not higher. We will need candle 16 candle close to be higher compared to the central point P. Okay, so candle 15 candle close needs to be less. First input less than second input. And after that, we come to the central point P10. And in this case, we will need the candle 16 candle close to be greater than the central point P10. Okay, we want to make sure that there is some correction in the last hour, and after that we will be placing the order for the buy on the higher side. It will be a stop buy order. First input greater than second input. Okay, so we have compared the closing values of these two last hourly candle with the central point. Now we have to consider the individual closing values of these hourly candles and compare it to the opening value. So we need candle 15 candle close to be less than the candle 15 candle open. So again we need to do the comparison. All right, and here I bring in few of these if blocks. So here first input needs to be less, and in case of candle 16 candle close, it needs to have closed higher than the opening value. So candle 16 candle close needs to be greater than candle 16 candle open. Okay, so first input greater than second input. Afterwards we consider the price formation of the 4-hourly candle. There we will need candle 14 candle close to be greater than the candle 14 candle open. Okay, and after this we bring in the if block again. Here the requirement is that first input greater than second input. Let me add one more multiple action block, which we will place on the lower side, and it will need to be followed by this logical blocks. I will join it here. Now all we need to do is provide the entry point when the order will be placed, and that is when the price starts to dip below the closing value of the last hour. Okay, so we have to compare candle 17 and candle 18's closing values with the closing value of candle 15. So here we bring in these two more if blocks and we take candle 15 candle close as the common input and compare it to the closing values of candle 17 and candle 18. Candle 17 candle close and candle 18 candle close. Okay, so here we will need the last 10-second candle close to be less, so first input less than second input, whereas the candle 18 candle close will need to have been higher. And we now bring in the trade command block. Pending open, this is going to be a pending order. First input greater than second input. Okay, buy stop buy bid or ask, you can do buy stop or buy stop buy bid. These two options are there and just the difference will be of spread. Now we have to define the entry point, the price point at which the order is going to be placed, and that, as I have said earlier, it is going to be the central point E10. Okay, so we will now start defining the conditions. Default instrument remains as it is, Euro USD. Trade amount I will change to 0.1 million. Slippage is going to be 2 pips. Stop loss, since we are dealing with the hourly time frame, I think 15 pips stop loss coupled with the target price of 30 pips should be good enough, bringing us a risk reward ratio of 1:2. And then comes the question of order validity, for which we will have to create a new variable with the time value of 1 hour. So I will have to take the calculation expression, mathematical component. Here we add calculation expression, and to this we have to take the last tick time and add 3.6 million ticks to it. So for that I will have to take a new variable and provided the value of 3.6 million. So here we have to be careful to get the number of zeros right. Yes, I think we are right. And if you want to keep the order validity of say 2 hours, then all you have to do is multiply this variable with 2 and then add it. So you can keep the order validity accordingly. If you want to keep it of half an hour, all you have to do is divide it. Okay, in 1 hour, you have to remember that there are 3.6 million ticks. So that is the important thing to remember, and accordingly you can then define the order validity. Okay, A1 plus A2, and result of the calculation. We need the output to be of long data type, so I will create the new variable here. Name, we will name it OVT, and its value will be derived from this calculation. So we now have the system in place for the execution of the buy trade using the formation of the Woodie pivot. We needed to define these 7 conditions for the execution of the trade, and after that, of course, the parameters for this trade command block also. So I hope you have been able to understand the logical as well as the execution part of these buy side of the algorithm using the Woodie pivot. And if any of you have any query or any idea to share, you can write to me in the feedback section. So here we stop for the day, and we will be coming back in the next session where the focus is of course going to be on completing the sell side. So that's it for the day. And if you want to refer to the further market research, do check out the Dukascopy Analytics page, for which the link has been provided. We are also available on the Facebook, so you can join in the Dukascopy's Facebook page also. And if you haven't started to trade, do check out the JForex platform. Thank you all for joining in. See you next time around. Goodbye.